Afternoon, everybody. We're at ALA. My name is Jeff Weber, and I'm here with Annaliese Traugott on her new book, The Rescue of a Witch. This is really an interesting book to me because when we talked about it before, they told me there are certain witchy rules that in that world you got to follow. But before we get to that, why don't you tell me a little bit about the book and why you wrote it?
Sure. To Rescue a Witch, it's set in 1739, and it's about an abused girl accused of witchcraft who must be rescued by a man married to an actual witch.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It is a thing.
I didn't know that.
So William MacLeod is the Scottish brute of a lawyer, and he's tasked to go and rescue young Annaliese from her tormentors in Virginia and take her back to her aristocratic father in London. But on the journey, Annaliese, who's been abused, acts a little strange. She has nightmares that can't be explained, and there's a lot of bad weather going on, and there's a shipwreck. She also has these unexplained devil marks on her body. And so one thing leads to another. There's a witch trial. It gets brought up that MacLeod, who is, in charge of her, is married to a witch, and there's a murder that's revealed. Lots of chaos ensues. But
And there's bad weather there.
Yes.
Let's not forget that.
Lots of bad weather, lots of shipwrecks, and but it's a really good story because there's lots of dimension to it. It's told from lots of different points of view, and it goes from the Isle of Skye in Scotland to a plantation in colonial Williamsburg and across the sea.
Did you go to these places? How did you research this book?
I did. So actually, I started writing it during the pandemic, and like everybody, I felt very trapped inside, and so I wanted to go and write an escapism adventure. And after the pandemic started going out, I traveled to colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, and I actually toured plantations. I met with historians at colonial Williamsburg, and then I flew to the Isle of Skye, and I looked at croft homes, and I did a witch tour. I worked with a tour guide and a local historian named Ann Daly, and she took me to castle ruins and all over to kind of learn about Celtic folklore and magic, and it was amazing. Just a lot of information that was out there.
The 18th century is, well, it's about as old as I am. So did you find out anything interesting about the 18th century other than my birthday?
It is not a time that you or I or really anyone would want to live. It's a very dark time, but there's some really interesting things that I found specific to witchcraft. So witchcraft it used to be that people had wise women and folklores and stuff like that for their everyday medicine. But then in the 1500s, the King of Scotland wanted to go and marry a woman, a princess in Denmark. But there were all these storms that kept coming up.
There's that weather again.
I know, there's that weather again. And so he went and he had like this massive witch trial that spanned through Scotland and in Denmark. And he's the one who really promoted witch laws. And so witchcraft became a felony punishable by death. And then as time went on, then people's perceptions, and with the age of reason coming out in the 18th century, people started thinking, well, I'm not so sure about how bad this is. And so in 1736, witchcraft got demoted from a Class A felony to a misdemeanor. And this is real. And so, but it stayed on the books until 1951. So it's just like all of this like really interesting stuff. Now, even though it got downgraded to a misdemeanor, if you were at sea, all bets were off. Because international waters and sailors were notorious for being superstitious, and there's a lot of research about a witch in Virginia, off the coast of Virginia, where they had some bad storms and they just killed her. They had the trial on the ship, and it did not bode well for her. But so a lot of the stuff that goes on in here is based in history and historical fact.
So this has to keep you busy. So what was the hardest part about writing this book? Nights and weekends?
Honestly, the hardest part is the little girl in the story, Annaliese. She was abused, and that was really hard going in. It was hard writing it, and also I wanted to be authentic, and I wanted it to be honest, and so I actually interviewed 2 therapists about this to go and make sure that I was, portraying it in a good way. And one of the things that has been most gratifying is I had a person reach out to me and send me a message, and she said that she had been abused, and when she read this story, she said it really made her think about her own journey. And there's a scene in here where Annaliese has a choice about staying in the darkness, like a cave of, her trauma, or choosing to move forward. And she said that part really, really connected with her. So that was really gratifying. Why do we write stories? You write stories to connect with people, and you hope that it touches somebody's life in a good way. And so, I feel like people who read this story, they're going to feel good at the end, and they're going to feel like they've gone on an adventure.
So that was the best part of the book.
That was the best part,
somebody's
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
The better. That's fantastic. Okay, so where can we find your book?
Amazon. So you can find it on Amazon, and you can also go to my website, lisatraugott.com, and I have it there.
Would you spell it?
Sure. LISATRAUGOTT.
Well, I would have got that wrong.
So would everybody. So Traugott actually means trust in God. So I guess somebody in my husband's life was a preacher.
Well, not to diminish your husband, but tell us about yourself.
Oh, sure. So my name is Lisa Traugott, and let me tell you something a little interesting. Every year for my birthday, I do something to scare myself. So it's kind of like having a bucket list, only instead of doing 100 things at once and then dropping dead, I do one thing per year and then eat cake. And so it has led me to go and live outside my comfort zone. So it got me running a marathon. Yes, sure. So I ran a marathon. I did 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. I wrote a book. I auditioned for a reality TV show and got on. So anybody out there who likes John Cena, I was original cast member of American Grit, and I lasted through 5 episodes. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's fun.
And at the end of this, each one of these, you're not scared anymore.
I wouldn't go that far. No, some things like, so for my 39th birthday, I jumped out of a plane, because when you're facing 40, what else is there to do but jump out of a plane? I would not do that again. That was really, really terrifying, but it was good, and it's exciting. And I think a lot of times people, they kind of sleepwalk through life, and then they wake up and they're 50 and they're like, what happened? And so I tried to go and make a choice to just live intentionally.
I think that's the way we're going to end this. Live intentionally.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you here.
Good to have you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.